All right, guys, this is one that I've been excited for a little while. I am a big fan of the Legion Y700 tablets. I own both the 2022 version with the Snapdragon 870, as well as the 2023 version with the 8 Plus Gen 1. So I am excited to check out the 2024, or is it 2025? I'm not really sure because both words and numbers have been used for advertising all over the internet. So kind of hard to tell what it's supposed to be, but we'll call it the 2025 for the rest of the video because I think that's what they're calling it. And this one has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which should be a good bump and even more powerful than any other Android device I own, handheld and tablets included. So let us take a look. If I can just get this to come out here. Oh gosh. All right, guys, here it is. Moment of truth. Legion. Well, guys, it looks like a tablet. Real quick here, here's the 2023 version, which also looks like a tablet. The logo is larger on the back of the new version here. Camera hump is similar, but it's got this little shiny bit here. Let's see what else is in the box. Got the standard stuff, USB-C cable here, a manual, not in English at any point, so we'll leave that one in here. And I'm assuming we got a charge brick over here. Yeah, always nice that they include a charge brick with the Y700. I feel like a lot of electronics devices these days, you don't get one. So what do we got here? We have 68 watt max, so 68 watt PD charger. Let's see if there's any juice in this bad boy. Aha, there's life. ZY16, that is not English, so let's YOLO and tap it. Yes, thankfully we do have an English option right here on the first menu. Let's go ahead and connect up here. We're gonna set this up new. We'll just do a password and a pin. And I'll let you all know my pin for this video only. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same as some people's luggage passcode. And let's get started. A bunch of stuff in Chinese that I'll probably try to uninstall here. Let's see if we can. Delete. Oh, we want to change the input method, otherwise we're gonna get odd characters. See, some apps like this one does not have a delete option, but we can disable it. Oh yeah, while we're here, let's just jump into the About This tablet and give you a cursory overview and talk about specs here. Of course, for CPU, we have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, 256 gigabytes of storage. You know what, let me just pop my MicroSD card in here. Let me just search for that SD slot on one of the sides of the tablet. Oh wait, there's no freaking MicroSD card slot. This is very upsetting to me. Both of my other Y700 tablets have a MicroSD card slot, and it's kind of disheartening to see that here. I only opted for the 256 gigabyte version because I didn't want to spend a ton of money, but that means that I'm limited to that for storage, which is a real bummer. So 256 gigabytes of internal storage on this version, 12 gigabytes of RAM. I believe the 512 gigabyte tablet comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM, but I don't care too much about that. Software is ZY16, which is running on Android 14. So you're getting a relatively recent Android build. I think that's about it for what we have here. Talking about a couple of other things, the display on this device is same resolution, 2560 by 1440 as the previous Legion tablets, but we do have the addition of 165 hertz. So we've got in the display settings here, intelligent, which automatically adjusts it, extreme, which gives us 165 hertz, and standard at 60 hertz. What I'm not seeing here, and is disappointing, is it doesn't look like I'm allowed to set 120 or 144 hertz. So I'm either getting 165 dynamic and standard. That's disappointing if you're gonna do any emulation. You know, with 120 frames per second, you get a nice divisible factor of 2. So even if you're just running at 60 frames per second and not using black frame insertion, that means that you're not gonna have to worry about stuttering frames because it's 2 for every 1. It'll be good for streaming, and with that high of a frame rate, you probably won't notice micro stutters as much. But yeah, I'm kind of bummed that there's no 120 hertz option. We do have Dolby Atmos, for whatever that's worth. We'll check out the sound later. Other specs, we do have a 6550 milliamp hour battery, port for quick charge, UFS 4.0, so the internal storage is faster, and it looks like LPDDR5X instead of 5, so we might get a bit of a speed bump on storage read and write, which is good since we don't have microSD card. We're going to be relying on the internal storage. And this does 68 watt charging, whereas the previous models did 45 watt charging, so it's good to know that we can get this back to max relatively quickly. And then any other differences, we've got 2 of the USB C ports here, just like the previous generation, but it looks like we've been upgraded to 3.2 Gen 2, whereas the last one was 3.1 Gen 2, but we did lose the micro SD card reader. We also don't have a headphone jack on this, which is no surprise since the last model didn't. The 2022 model does have a headphone jack, so the 2022 model is still valid with the Snapdragon 870, can get pretty decent performance, and you get a headphone jack, which is kind of cool. You don't get the second USB port, but it just depends on which I/O you want, and a micro SD card slot still. So we do have a couple color modes. We've got standard and vibrant, toggle back and forth there. As you can see, that gives it a bit more punch. The color temperature also shifts slightly warmer and cooler, but there is additionally a standard warm and cool toggle on the bottom, and that applies to both modes. And you can also set a tint over here. I'm just gonna leave it on vibrant to make it nice and poppin' for this video, but if it becomes too saturated, we'll head back over here. Let's do warm. I usually prefer a warmer color. Gets significantly brighter. Oh wow, it gets so dim. That's great for nighttime use. So what I'm gonna do now is see if we can get Google Play Store on here easily, because that's always a question I got with the last version. If I leave it on the Chinese ROM, will I be able to get Google Play Store on it? Let's find out. So let's head and see if we can just get it straight from the Chinese App Center here. I don't know what any of this is. I'm just gonna bust out Google Translate on my phone here to help me with this part. Welcome to the Lenovo App Store. Use full mode, use only basic functions, exit app. Let's just do basic. Let's just see if we can search the Play Store here. Google Play, so let's install that. If we're lucky, that's all we need, and we don't need to side load or fuddle around with services, but we're finding this out together right now. Oh, it's giving me a notice saying enable Google Play services. So let's do that. Enable. I'm gonna sign in. There was a problem communicating with Google servers. Try again later. Oh guys, I think I'm onto something. I think this is the issue I had on the last tablet and I just couldn't find it. We need to go down to Google Basic Services, toggle off, toggle on, head back to the Play Store. Oh my goodness, that was it. Well, okay, let's keep setting up. All right, I'm back. I've transferred just a few files over the device to do a quick performance test today in this initial video, but I will be doing more in-depth testing in the days to come, so definitely subscribe and check out those videos as they're posted. So first up, we're just gonna test out a little bit of GameCube here. I've got the GameSir G8 added to the tablet here. I've got it modded so you can stretch it wider than it's supposed to go, and it works just fine with the tablet. So I'm just gonna start off all the way up at a 5x native 3200 by 2640 internal resolution just to push the system. I think it might be capable of doing this, but let's see. We've got the slide out menu on the side here if we want to change the mode, but I'm just gonna leave it in the default balance mode for performance. And let's just start it up. All right, so here we are, OpenGL 5x graphics. It is running just fine. It says we're at a 140% max speed, so it's definitely running with headroom to spare here, and Tony Hawk 3 on GameCube. I'm gonna bump it up to full 6x, which is 4K graphics on here. And it is handling it. So yeah, this beast of a CPU and GPU in the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 means we can do some 4K GameCube here. You can see we're hovering around 130% speed, meaning that there's 30% extra headroom on here. Let's just test out, oh, we got a very slight slowdown when I bailed there. But I mean, we are pushing 4K here, which is pretty incredible. Let's see if the performance is any different on Vulkan. All right, so I'm still at 6x and we've changed the video back into Vulkan. Looks like we're getting about the same performance here. 160%, it might be a little bit more headroom than OpenGL, but it's not gonna make or break it. Again, I am playing this at 4K right now, which is sort of insane. All right, I'm gonna hop over to do a quick PS2 test here in Nether SX2 version 1.8. We're gonna do OpenGL 4x native to start on God of War 2. All right, so here we are at 4x resolution. It seems to be handling it without any issue. Let's go ahead and bump that up. Let's do 6x native, why not? It's gonna put us at 3072 by 2688, so that's approaching 4K there. Okay, well, there is a limit. So let's try performance mode. Oh, so if you have an app that doesn't have the slide out here, here's how we fix it. Settings, game assistant, manage my games. We'll find Nether SX in here somewhere. Hit the toggle, and now it's there. Let's turn on the performance mode. And we're getting a little bit better, like 80%, but 5x is just kind of insane anyways. Sorry, 6x. We're gonna back down to 5x native here. And we are mostly there, but it's kind of wavering a little bit. Let's see if Vulkan gives us any different performance. Leaving it at 5x, we're just gonna change the graphics back end to Vulkan. And no, it does not look like we are seeing a strong benefit there. So it looks like 4X native at OpenGL is going to be our best option with God of War 2 here on PS2. At this resolution, we are playing with no slowdowns. And this is still 2048 by 1792, which vertically speaking is more pixels than the display, which is 1600 pixels tall. But horizontally 2048 is being stretched to 16:9 using the in-game widescreen setting. If this was only a 4:3 game, then that would pretty much be native resolution of the display. We're just seeing a little bit of stretching of horizontal pixels, which honestly, I can't tell. Last thing I want to do is check out some native Android gaming here. One other cool thing I forgot to mention earlier about the software is that it does have this floating display option, which gives you some frequencies and frame rate overlay, which is nice to have to see how your Android games are performing. And I've got Grid Auto Sport here, so let's take a look and see how that plays. Got it on the best graphics setting. Looks like we're getting a solid 30. I don't know if that is just the limitations of this mode, but it does look pretty. Let's check the graphics settings a little bit more in depth here. So we'll put on the medium setting, the performance setting. We are getting 60 frames per second now. This is pretty beautiful at 60 frames per second here. For one more Android game, I wanted to take a quick look at Genshin Impact, since that's sort of a standard benchmark on these tablets these days. And let's see what we can do graphics. We've got it set to high. Let's put it on highest, and we're going to put it on 60 frames per second, and it's going to complain, but I think we might be able to run it. So let's see. It looks like we are at a beautiful 60 frames per second on highest settings on Genshin. So if you want to play Genshin on something a little bit bigger than a phone, perhaps, then here you have it. Beautiful 8.8-inch 1600p display, maxed out graphics in Genshin. Unfortunately, no native controller support here on Android, and that's in balance mode. We didn't even have to go into the boost mode to hit 60 frames per second here. Really pretty way to play this game. There's actually one other thing I wanted to check out, and that's to see how this performs with Moonlight streaming. All right, so in Moonlight here, I'm gonna do 120 frames per second. Even though this is a 165, I'm only gonna stream at 120 from my PC today for this quick test. Video resolution, we're gonna do 1440p. The computer I'm streaming from is 1440p, so we'll see slight black bars on there. And then for bitrate, I usually bump this up pretty decently when I am streaming, but that does affect typically the decode time as well. So let's see how it looks. So right now I am seeing 13.44 milliseconds, which isn't the best latency ever. All right, so we are streaming games running at about 100, 110 frames per second. But we are getting about 12 milliseconds of latency, which is still fine. I mean, that's what the G Cloud gets. So it's not like that's bad, but it could be a little better. Let's see if we can tweak this just a tad. Let's force AV1 and see what that looks like. Okay. All right, guys, here's where it's at. I forced AV1 and I'm now getting 3 milliseconds of decoding time. That is good. Let's see what bitrate we're at here. It's at 47. Let's bump this back up to like that 80 I was using before to get crystal clear quality. All right, we are at, oh man, we're still at 3.1 milliseconds. It's in beast mode, so let's go back to balanced. All right, so balanced mode, so we're not draining our battery. 120 frames per second stream, 1440p, 80 megabit bitrate, and we are getting approximately 3.5 milliseconds latency using AV1 decoding, which is actually spectacular. That is some of the best decoding performance I've seen on Android in a while. So that's exciting. So there you have it, my first look at the Lenovo Legion Y700 2025, or maybe 2024 edition tablet. It is a great performer. We were able to do no problem with GameCube and Dolphin, PS2. Now, I will say that if you're only going to stream, the previous two models of the Legion are perfectly fine, still have great displays, and don't have the no SD card problem. But that is the biggest thing. That is my biggest fail here on the Legion, is that we have removed the SD card, which really sucks, because even if you opt for paying the extra money and don't mind and get 512, it's still only 512. With the previous ones, you could slap a 1 terabyte card in there and have a lot of space for ROM. So unfortunately, that's a little bit more limited on here. In games like Genshin Impact, I think I downloaded 28 gigabytes. So just a handful of those larger Android games are going to fill up the internal storage very quickly on here as well. So that's really a disappointment to see that storage limitation. So I don't know if I would recommend this over the past two versions because of the micro SD card slot. If you are okay with the performance that the previous 2023 Y700 or even 2022 model with their respective 8 Plus Gen 1 and Snapdragon 870 processors then I would stick with those or buy one of those if you can find it at a good deal on AliExpress. This one cost me about $450 before coupons on AliExpress. I think it got it down to about $420 plus shipping to get this one over to me, which is not cheap. It's not as expensive as some of the Galaxy tablets, but there's not a whole lot else in this size space. You can get the iPad mini, and I think the newest version has mini LED display now, so that display probably looks pretty good in comparison, but you are locked down to the Apple ecosystem. So yes, there's emulation on Apple now, but still can't really do GameCube, PS2 on Apple. You can't do Switch on Apple. So PSP and below, yeah, the iPad mini can handle it no problem, but you really need Android for the rest of the emulation suite with higher performance consoles. But that about wraps it up for today. I think this is a cool tablet. I think if you are in the market for a compact size gaming focused tablet, and you don't want Apple, then this is really the only tablet on the market that fills that niche. There's 3 generations now, and each one has improved definitely performance-wise and had nicer screens, but there have been some trade-offs. Second generation, we lost the headphone jack, but gained a USB port, and now we have lost the SD card slot. Still have the 2 USB ports, but yeah, that's really a bummer. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this cool tablet, and I'll get out some more videos showcasing performance on a variety of games in the coming weeks. And as always, thanks for watching and happy gaming.